Warning, this video may contain my opinion.
I'm triggered!
Okay, let me get something out of the way really quick. The title of this video is a little clickbaity, and I apologize about that. No, they didn't completely remove secondary fire, not every weapon overheats. It was just short and sweet to put in the title, really clickbaity, I know. I'll put my address in the description below and you can come at me with your pitchforks and torches. However, it's not entirely inaccurate, because as of the latest patch, the link gun now overheats and they did remove secondary fire from the rocket launcher. That's right, there's no secondary fire anymore with the rocket launcher, no more grenades. And, well, to be honest, I'm a little bit peeved about that. So let me start from the top by explaining a little bit here. The new Unreal Tournament game, as many know, is currently in pre-alpha and under production by Epic Games in collaboration with the community, which has been pretty dang awesome for the most part. However, there was recently a new patch/update that came out that brought about some changes not really well received by the community, and I wanted to talk about that. I know this isn't normally a type of video I do, but Unreal Tournament is my favorite game of all time. Always has been since I started playing UT back in 1999. I've played every single Unreal and UT game to date, I love them all, and I still play them today. And I've always really enjoyed everything Epic Games has done with the franchise for the most part. But for the first time, watching this new game develop, I feel like Epic Games has taken a step in the wrong direction. And, well, I felt something needed to be said about this. I mean, sure, there were other instances of things not being well received by the community, like the story mode in Unreal Tournament 3, but for the first time we actually get to watch Unreal Tournament develop with this new game, so we can give direct feedback during the process to hopefully better the game as a whole. And that's exactly what I intend to do with this video. So please don't get me wrong here, I love this game, I love Unreal Tournament, the devs, the community, and Epic Games are all and have been awesome, and I really respect what's being done here. So don't think I'm hating on anyone or anything, but like I said, this is really the first time I feel like there was a misstep in the development process with these new changes that most people so far do not seem to like or agree with. Changes made by the dev team at Epic Games. Now, at the time of recording this, the changes have only been in for a few weeks and they're still getting feedback from the community on it, so it's possible changes are down the road. Keep that in mind. So let's dive into the patch notes and I'll go over the major changes, the ones people are not very happy about, including myself, and we'll talk about them a bit here as to why I believe it's a step in the wrong direction. And really just not the Unreal Tournament. You'll see what I mean. So going down the list here in no particular order, we see the following. Under weapons, they added a grenade launcher, which for now replaces the bio rifle. And they've already stated that the bio rifle isn't being completely removed. It'll still be part of the UT arsenal along with the grenade launcher as a standard weapon now. But for now, the bio rifle isn't in the game and they are creating a new model for it. So they've added a grenade launcher, and then we look under link gun. Link gun primary now stops firing during cooldown rather than slow firing, and a new link gun overheat indicator. Under rocket launcher, disabled grenade mode in rocket launcher. Under impact hammer, removed impact hammer from free-for-all deathmatch and flag run. And then under the armor system, helmet is gone, replaced with 25 plus armor, no special headshot bonus. So these were the major things, and the ones that I'm personally not happy with, nor many others, judging by many of the replies on the patch feedback section of the forum. I made my own post on the forum giving my feedback about the changes, which I'll basically repeat and share with you guys in this video here. So let's tackle one issue at a time. The link gun overheating. I'm sure I can say with a little tongue-in-cheek here that this is a little just what? What is this, Call of Tournament? I mean shit, we have death cams now, might as well be. No, but all joking aside, this change out of all of them just feels really out of place, and certainly doesn't feel like it belongs in an Unreal Tournament game. A game that is at heart a fast-paced arcade shooter. Weapons overheating and weapon cooldown times is something you'd see in, well, MechWarrior or Call of Duty, aka Simulator. Or possibly very large weapons like turrets on vehicles with unlimited ammo or something. Supposedly this was done to balance the weapon as it was too OP and too spammy, but if that's the case, why create an unnecessary and out-of-place mechanic that will probably only frustrate people, to be honest, instead of either lowering the damage of each projectile fired from the link gun or decreasing its fire rate, two core mechanics of any weapon that can be used for balancing. I can mention too that this has never been done for any of the other main weapons in Unreal Tournament throughout any of the UT games. Again, it just feels horribly out of place, at least to me, in a game like Unreal Tournament, really feeling like it doesn't belong, and is essentially what I consider a poor balancing mechanic, which doesn't really add anything but rather takes away. Removing grenade/secondary fire from the rocket launcher. This is the other major change that I just what? Like really, what? Now Epic Games has stated already that they will be working on a different type of secondary fire mode for the rocket launcher, but still, removing grenades? A mechanic that has always been part of every single iteration of Unreal Tournament? What? Why though? It was a cool mechanic, and a unique one at that. Most other games like Quake or Doom will just have a rocket launcher and maybe a grenade launcher separately, but that's where Unreal Tournament stood out, combining 2 in 1 and creating something awesome that just works so well. Since 1998, I'm incredibly sad to see this mechanic go, and I think it's a very wrong move on Epic's part. It was also unclear as to why this change took place, though they did write up a response post later on to explain their changes people were concerned about, like this one, but I'll go into that a little later. The grenade launcher. Now, I'm not against new weapons or anything, but with Unreal Tournament, we expect to use Unreal Tournament weapons. You know, shit like the Razorjack/Ripper, a gun that literally shoots giant razor blades that bounce around and slice people's heads off. It's fucking awesome. A grenade launcher is very basic and standard, and similar to other arcade or action shooters out there that have a rocket launcher and grenade launcher separately. Now, the weapon isn't finished by any means, it's still a work in progress, but right now the primary shoots grenades at a steady rate that bounce around before exploding or explode on impact, while secondary is more like a proxy mine that you can self-detonate, or detonates automatically once a player touches it. It also allows you to fire multiple proxy mines if you hold down secondary fire to load them up. I played around with this a bit, and honestly, it's another thing that just doesn't feel like it really fits. Only because most other weapons are far more useful, and I can't see many people really using the grenade launcher that much. A similar problem the bio rifle always had, to be honest. With the rocket launcher, it was always neat to be able to lob some grenades down a tight corridor or into a window, etc. But I don't think it was ever primarily used, since, well, all other weapons in a fight will be faster, more accurate, or more powerful, depending on the circumstance. Grenades are slow and easy to dodge. And in UT4 here, what's worse is that right now they seem incredibly weak too, probably due to their spammy nature, but still. Now again, work in progress, so this could change, this isn't finalized by any means, and I understand that. I mean, if they made the grenades do like 200 damage, then shit, yeah, I could see it being kind of useful. But even then, it's a short to medium range weapon, and when it comes to short and medium range, no other weapon comes close than the flat cannon. You have the shotgun-like spread of the primary and a powerful secondary arcing projectile that explodes on impact and sends shrapnel everywhere. The grenade launcher I don't think can really match up, and doesn't seem to fit in UT's arsenal. I think a grenade launcher probably works in other arena shooters though, simply due to the lack of a flat cannon in other games, or other weapons with a mortar-type firing arc, and one that allows you to shoot around corners, which can be useful. The flat cannon already does this, allowing you to bounce the shrapnel around corners, albeit not with as much power or damage as a grenade launcher theoretically would. But again, that's why we had grenades as secondary fire to the rocket launcher. And it was more of a situational thing to use grenades, really. But yeah, personally, all in all, I don't see the grenade launcher as a main primary weapon working or fitting quite right in Unreal Tournament. Removing the impact hammer from Deathmatch and Flag Run. Why? The impact hammer was a pretty straightforward weapon, useful especially in levels for boosting yourself up to high places or places normally not reachable at the cost of damaging yourself some, and was also good if you ever ran out of ammo and just wanted to run up to someone and blow them away with a fully charged impact hammer. What was wrong with this? Yeah, I got nothing else to say on this one. I don't even. Removing the helmet armor. This one was the least of my concern, but again, I didn't really see a problem with the helmet armor. It only added a little bit of armor, but protected you once from a sniper headshot, which was a very welcome ability, and little power-up. Supposedly removed for balancing or being too OP, maybe, I guess. But it's not like everyone went around with the helmet armor 24/7, it didn't spawn that quickly. And there were even less people running around headshotting all day too with a sniper rifle. I just don't see why it was taken out. But again, not a change that's of huge concern to me. So now, at this point, there were many posts like mine expressing our opinions and giving feedback on the changes, and mostly the forum seemed to agree to dislike the new changes. So, as I mentioned before, Epic made a response to all this and replied to all of us on the forum to explain their changes, their reasoning, and as to why, and hopefully help us see the light. Before I get into their response though, I had personally contacted and had a conversation with someone from Epic Games on the Unreal Tournament development team. Now note that I spoke to this developer before their official response was posted on the forum, hence why I'm going to talk about this before talking about the official response. Also, I won't be naming any names here, I don't want to call anyone out or anything, and what the dev told me, I'm sure he was mostly speaking on behalf of the dev team. So I spoke to this developer about the changes, asked him what was up, and explained why I felt like the changes were a misstep, as I just did with you guys, and really just wanted to know their reasoning behind the changes, hell, maybe even see if I could change their mind. Why not while I'm at it, right? Without going into too much detail, he said, I understand where you're coming from, and he let me know that a bigger response was coming to address everything, and he was pretty brief with me overall overall, which is pretty understandable, but he did take the time to address some things I said in his own words. He said, quote, "Grenade launcher new weapon, other Unreal tournaments have introduced new weapons as well, and rocket launcher, grenades were spam and not a thoughtful move." I was a little bit baffled by this, firstly because saying, oh, well, other UTs have introduced new weapons doesn't really address any of the points I made to why I believe the grenade launcher doesn't fit into UT, but secondly, this one just kind of confused me. Grenades were spam? Not a thoughtful move? I mean, what does that even mean, not a thoughtful move? Like, having grenades as secondary fire in every single Unreal tournament to date was unthoughtful? And as for spam, well, I already explained that they were a much more situational weapon to use, and I've never quite personally seen them used to be spammy. I mean, sure, you could say spam a really tight corridor with grenades, but you could really do the same with a lot of the other weapons too. It was just part of the game, really, and it never felt like anything that was a problem. Again, I refer to what I said about the link gun. Why not just lower the fire rate or something so people can't continuously spam grenades, but rather use them for situational type stuff like it's meant to be? Not just completely remove the feature. So I basically said all this to him, we bantered back and forth about it a little bit, and note that he's also a friend of mine. I've known him and we've been chatting since practically the beginning of UT4's development. So I spoke very directly to him, not to be rude or anything, but more like, yo dude, the hell is going on? I had even said, talk to me like a fan of Unreal Tournament instead of, a developer for a moment. Because I really wanted to know if he actually enjoyed these changes and if he played around with them himself. But overall, he stood his ground, was very brief, and seemed to be talking on the dev team's behalf, which, again, is understandable. He was time-struck and working on other things, I get that, so I don't blame him. But there was something else he said that I was really kind of taken aback by. We were going back and forth discussing the removal of grenades from the rocket launcher, and I had basically said I felt it was overall a bad idea. And, why fix what isn't broken? Referring to how all previous games have grenades as secondary fire for the rocket launcher. And it was fine and part of the gameplay and worked. And to this he said, it's a bad idea from someone with no context of why it's being removed. And it is broken though, that's the problem. People just don't understand or know yet. I'm sorry, what? I was really taken aback by this. First of all, because I told him that I don't need the context of why it's being removed to play the game for myself and determine that the grenade launcher feels out of place and isn't really fun or useful, but also saying that grenades as secondary fire for the rocket launcher is broken and we just don't know it yet? Are you kidding me? This was kind of the point where I was like, okay, I gotta make a video about this. I can't even fathom this kind of response. First off, because if grenades are broken, then why not fix it instead of removing it and then re-adding it as its own weapon for the grenade launcher, which doesn't make any sense if this were the case, but also just saying it's broken and we don't know yet. Okay, sure, we don't know, the community, the players, people who have been playing the Unreal Tournament games for almost 2 decades, with every Unreal Tournament having the rocket launcher secondary fire grenades. A core mechanic of the UT formula. And we don't know it's broken? I even said this to him and I was like, come on dude, how can you say that? And it's a funny idea to think that, oh, they could magically explain to us why it's broken and we'd be like, oh, okay, now I'm okay with these changes. Yeah, now I see that it was broken. Even though we've never had an issue with it before in the previous 4 Unreal Tournament games, but now I suddenly have an issue with it because you guys explained it to us. Because I just didn't know yet. I'm sorry I'm really taking the piss out on this one. I thought this was so ridiculous. To the developer's credit though, he probably worded that wrong and didn't really mean it like that, so I'm not going to hold it against him or anything. But I wanted to point it out just to give some context for the official response that was posted by Epic Games on the forum. So there was a bunch of stuff they addressed here, but I'll just go over the main stuff I've been talking about in this video. So, about the impact hammer being removed, they say, quote, functionally the impact hammer is unintuitive. We're playing around with widening our movement options by moving some abilities over to other weapons, i.e. grenade jumping. New players found the impact hammer confusing and it was frequently mistaken for a ranged weapon. We would love to prototype an updated version down the road, but for the time being, it is a roadblock to making our game more approachable for new players. End quote. I'm not really sure what they mean by unintuitive. As I've said before, this has pretty much always been part of the UT arsenal, and skilled players could use it for boosting up to high places, or for quick and easy melee if you ever ran out of ammo, or found yourself in really close combat. I actually found it quite useful, and doing jumps with it is easy enough for anyone to learn. You hold down the trigger, look down, and release, sending you flying into the air. Saying you're moving this now to grenade jumping is, well, I'm sorry to say, kind of a straight up ripoff of Quake, let's be honest. But also a lot harder to do, because now you have to carefully aim the grenade where you want it to go and time it right so that it explodes at the right time. This is incredibly more difficult, especially for the average player. And if the impact hammer was too confusing for new players, then why not just explain its use and functionality? You have a tutorial level already, and hell, this was even explained to us in the tutorial for UT99.
Every weapon in Unreal Tournament is a projectile weapon except one, the Impact Hammer. The Impact Hammer is a melee or close combat weapon. Now run up to the nollie I just spawned. When you get close enough, the Impact Hammer will release, blowing him into pieces. Look at those jibs fly. Great job.
I haven't really seen any evidence myself of it being too confusing for new players, so I'm not quite sure how they determined this, or that people were mistaking it for a ranged weapon. I mean, sure, maybe at first, but are people really running around constantly with the impact hammer trying to fire it like a ranged weapon? I think people tend to learn pretty quick, and personally, I think part of the fun and experience is learning about all the nuances and experimenting with weapons or features or whatever else. It's not like everyone knows right away how to do the shock combo with the shock rifle, but you don't see that feature being removed like the impact hammer, and please, dear God, don't ever remove this or I think I'll actually die. But people learn, they'll see others do it, and will want to learn how to do it themselves, etc. I really shouldn't have to go into too much detail about this. Each weapon has its own learning curve. It's part of the game, part of any game really. And that's what tutorials are for, or the community, or forums, or wiki pages, or manuals, or frickin' however else we had to learn it back in the day. Next, they address the link gun overheating mechanic and say, quote, "Link gun overheat is a solution for being able to hold down the primary for long periods without running out of ammo or doing anything interesting. Now you have to juggle your heat up mechanic while dodging, and this has broken up the firing cadence of the weapon. This has reduced spam and made the link gun more interesting to master. This ultimately is a quality of life improvement overall for the weapon. We believe this is heading in the right direction and will continue to iterate on it," end quote. Again, I really have to disagree with this here. As I already said before and explained how this doesn't seem to fit into the UT style or arcade shooter at all, and if it's too spammy, lower the fire rate, or perhaps adjust damage dealt, or hell, even the ammo count. Those I really wouldn't mind. But this part right here where they say that this is a solution for being able to hold down the primary fire for long periods of time without doing anything interesting, couldn't you say that for every weapon, basically? The Stinger minigun is basically like that. You can hold it down for long periods of time and it doesn't do anything interesting other than shooting, which, I mean, well, it's a weapon, that's what it does. Will overheat be added to this Stinger minigun now, too? And this is a fast-paced arcade shooter. Circumstances are rare when you're able to hold down fire on any weapon, really, with enough versatility in all the weapons that you won't want to just be using the link gun anyway 100% of the time, or even most of the time. And I think that goes for all weapons. I mean, okay, except maybe the flat cannon. The flat cannon is fucking awesome. And the shock rifle. But yeah, I don't think it's going to make it more interesting to master, rather than just probably annoy most players and be a weapon that becomes not used as often. To basically restate what I said earlier, it's a mechanic that just doesn't feel like it fits into a game like UT, and adds an unnecessary complexity, in my opinion. They go on to talk about the grenade launcher, but don't really say too much to address what others have said, just basically that it's a work in progress and they're constantly tweaking and updating it, but that's about it really. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about here, they explain their reasoning for removing grenades from the rocket launcher. Quote, "Rocket launcher grenades added unnecessary complexity and too many gameplay options to the weapon. We felt that the lobbed fire and forget nature of those grenades resulted in the rocket launcher filling too many different roles. We have moved the grenades to an entirely new weapon that is designed specifically to be about lobbing projectiles. We're still iterating on the alt-fire functionality of the rocket launcher." Alright, I got several problems with this. And this is where I smear my opinion all over the internet. Rocket launcher adding unnecessary complexity. What was complex about this? Primary fires rockets, secondary fires grenades. Easy. Every single weapon in UT has a primary fire and a secondary fire, sometimes with additional abilities, like the shock combo with the shock rifle, or loading up multiple rockets/grenades when holding down your fire button. This is very easy to understand, and I don't think they're giving new players credit when it comes to learning the nuances and features of a game. There are far more complex games out there with much larger player bases. People aren't dumb, they will learn. And a fun game will make them want to learn. The new grenade launcher is nearly just as complex. Having primary fire launch grenades that bounce around and explode after a delay, or explode immediately on contact with a player, and secondary fire shooting proxy mines that stick to walls and floors and can be detonated remotely by right-clicking again, will explode immediately if touched by players, and on top of that, you can hold down secondary fire to load up multiple mines. That's basically the same complexity of the rocket launcher. The idea of dumbing down the rocket launcher because it's too complex just isn't justifiable and doesn't make sense. They say it filled too many roles, and they moved grenades to the grenade launcher to specifically fill the role of lobbing projectiles, but as I said before, this is kinda unnecessary since, as I explained, grenades were used in a much more situational type of situation. You know what I mean. The grenade launcher as a primary weapon and solely for lobbing projectiles just won't be useful in a fast-paced arcade shooter like UT, and probably won't see that much use. And you still have other weapons that lob projectiles like the flat cannon and the bio rifle. I played around with the grenade launcher already, and nearly every other weapon face-to-face outmatches the grenade launcher, just due to the fact that, grenades are slow. They're a lob projectile with an arc, making them harder to hit their target, etc. Which is why I think grenades were perfect as a secondary fire for the rocket launcher. It was to be used in a particular situation where maybe you could lob grenades down a corridor real quick and hope to catch someone off guard, or in a window really quick before dodging away and switching back to primary fire. Now, should you want to do this, you'll need to switch to an entirely different weapon, and one that doesn't quite have the functionality that grenades did from the rocket launcher. Anyway, I've said my 2 cents about all this, and I'll link the forum post and everything in the description below so you can check out the patch notes and what's in it. As a wrapping conclusion though, remember, most of this is my opinion, and I still love the game and everything, don't get me wrong, but I feel really strongly that Epic has taken a step in the wrong direction with these big changes, and it just doesn't really feel like Unreal Tournament. The fact that they had to do a big response post like this should show them that maybe there was something wrong with this patch, and a good majority of us aren't happy with the changes. And I believe for good reason too. If UT is a collaboration between gamers, devs, and Epic Games, then why are these changes that the majority of people don't want and seem to be against happening anyway? It's a little harsh to say it like that, but I think it needs pointing out. I don't want Epic to lose their original vision and course with this game, and I think Epic really needs to listen to the community and their player base. I understand the team that's working on this new Unreal Tournament is a very, very small number of people from Epic and a small sub-team of Epic Games. It's not like the entire Epic Games team is working on this new Unreal Tournament game. So, mistakes are to be made and there will be bumps in the road, which is perfectly understandable, and why the community was brought in on this project to begin with, in a totally epic collaboration. The game is still in pre-alpha as well, and mainly with this video, I just hope to steer the game in the right direction and better help the development of a great game and my personal favorite game of all time in the future for everyone. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, or go post on the forum, download the game and try it for yourself. It's totally free. All links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Quote from EMC Clark Kent. CTF respawn timer must go. Death cam seems like a fun idea, but it makes me dizzy, totally unnecessary. Link gun primary is now utterly useless as it overheats within seconds of engaging the enemy. I just don't understand Epic's logic here. Was the community asking for that? Are you guys listening to the community on this development? I cannot believe the community is asking for CTF respawn timers, death cams, and weapons that overheat. Quote from RPG Wizard. I can't help but feel I'm greatly missing the grenades with the rocket launcher every time I use the weapon now. It feels way oversimplified / non-UT with its direct hit possibility only. I tend to avoid it in favor for flat cannon, which is so much more useful / versatile. Quote from Payback. See, the problem I have here, for 15 plus years, the Impact Hammer was intuitive enough to allow UT to become recognized as one of the most iconic and well-known arena FPS games, and now suddenly the gaming population is too dumb to understand it? That doesn't make any sense. I get that you're trying to make the game more broadly approachable, however, you keep taking out all the fun stuff that the experienced players enjoyed. So what if a new player doesn't understand the mechanics of the Impact Hammer the first day playing? It's fun learning new aspects of a game. If someone plays UT for a month and still doesn't understand how the Impact Hammer works, well, then they are too dumb and you are right. But I really don't see that being a problem for the vast majority of players. Simple mechanics make a game that is easy to master and boring to play. Complicated mechanics make a game that is difficult to master but exciting to play. So, you know Unreal Tournament, right?
Right.
Okay. You know the new Unreal Tournament, right?
One did what?
The new Unreal Tournament, the new one that they're making?
Right.
What if I told you that they removed secondary fire from the rocket launcher, removed the impact hammer, and made the link gun, the pulse rifle, overheat if you fire it too long?
Stupid.
Like,
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
yeah, they made the link gun overheat if you fire it too long, because I guess it was too powerful to try to balance it.
It was too powerful.
Yeah, and they removed the impact hammer apparently because new players were confused by it and didn't know that it was a melee weapon and not a ranged weapon.
Okay.
I just wanted to get your like first.
New players, they should have been banned from playing it then. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently there were just a bunch of newbies running around trying to fire the impact hammer like a ranged weapon.
It went like what, 4 feet?
And they removed the secondary from the rocket launcher because they made a separate weapon called the grenade launcher. So they moved grenades over to its own weapon.
Stupid. You can't make the weapons be like real, because then it's not unreal.
Yeah. So you know the new Unreal Tournament, right?
Yeah, what about it? I haven't seen it. I don't know anything about it.
But you know of it, right?
You told me about it. You told me that it's coming out or something. I don't know.
Well, because I mean, you've played the old Unreal Tournaments. You're very familiar with like.
Yes, I played the old Unreal Tournament.
So what if I told you in the new Unreal Tournament that they removed secondary fire from the rocket launcher, the link gun, the pulse rifle now overheats if you fire it for too long, and they removed the impact hammer.
What was the point?
What was the? I'm just at like, what's your kind of first impression or opinion about that?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's much fun now.
No, well, the point was supposedly they removed the impact hammer because people were confused by it and didn't realize it was a melee weapon, and so I guess they're trying to make it more friendly for newer players. They added the overheat on the link gun or the pulse rifle because it was too spammy. They said too spammy and too powerful. Right?
Well, couldn't they just add noob mode and leave it alone?
Well, I suggested why don't they just lower the fire rate of how fast the weapon shoots, or lower the damage,
or just add a noob mode,
or a noob mode.
I think that works.
And for the rocket launcher, they felt it was too complicated. They said having it fire rockets and grenades, so they moved grenades over to its own weapon. There's now a grenade launcher, like in Quake.
It doesn't sound. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I don't really like the changes, and so far a lot of other people don't like the changes.
Whatever. That's what this was all about.
Yes, I wanted to get your opinion on it.
God, enough with it. I can't believe you're calling me all over a video game.
What? That's